Welcome to Target Market Insights, the multifamily and marketing podcast. Each week, John Kasman interviews multifamily and marketing experts to teach you how to find the best places to invest, attract investors, and grow your portfolio. You are listening to Target Market Insights with your host, John Kasman.
Welcome to Target Market Insights. I'm your host, John Kasman. I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. Now, if you're enjoying the podcast, do me a favor, take 1 minute and leave us a 5-star rating and review. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Now, today we're going to be talking to a multifamily investor focused on North Carolina and Virginia. Jerome Myers is the managing director of the Myers Development Group, a real estate investment firm on a mission to build a portfolio of 1,000 units and free 100 people from the work they don't really are passionate about, should say. Jerome quit his corporate job back in 2017, and since then he has joint ventured on several multifamily deals and is in the process of syndicating a 112-unit development in Greensboro, North Carolina. And this is known as Technology Row. Now, he's also the Chief Inspiration Officer for Dreamcatchers, a podcast featuring ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Let's welcome to the show, Jerome Myers.
John, I'm so excited to be here. It's kind of like a dream come true. I never thought I'd be on your show, man, but I'm glad you decided to let me join you.
Oh, Jerome, man, I appreciate the kind words, man. It's good to have you on, and we had the pleasure of getting to know each other a little bit here, and you're doing some amazing things. Let's start with, your mission. I mean, you're on a mission to help other people get away from work they're not passionate about. I know you but you quit your job from corporate America to focus full-time on real estate. Talk to us a little about that passion and your journey.
Hey, John, I don't know if I was fortunate or not, but I had the opportunity to build basically a $20 million business for a division in a company in corporate America. I was employee number 2 in that division, and we had $0 built. By the end of the first year, we were up to 20 million. And we had a little over 150 guys working on the team. Wow. In the course of that year, we had, I guess it was probably the last week of the year, we realized that we were going to have to downsize. And that was my first time actually going down lists and looking at names and deciding who we were going to keep and who was going to go. That tore me up inside out. Fast forward another year, and we're doing the same thing, except this time it's right before Thanksgiving. So, this time it was a little more aggressive, and, I realized a lot about me in that process. And now that I think about it a little bit closer, I said the last week for the first year, but I think I remember distinctly talking to my boss on December 24th, and it was about 5 o'clock, and I'm telling him we're making a mistake. We need to keep on. We need to find places for these folks. And he's like, Jerome, I'm done talking to you. He hangs up the phone. For me, the holidays have been ruined. And I put my heart and soul into that thing. I mean, you can imagine building something that big, that quick is pretty tough. We didn't have a whole lot of influence. I was the tip of the spear. I talked to folks every other week or so, and then they visited once a quarter. So it was really me. And I'd been toying with the thought of entrepreneurship since probably 2006, but, I wanted to grow my career. I liked the thought of a steady paycheck. I didn't enjoy the thought of the pain of, taking a pay cut. I'm sure some of your listeners feel like they have golden handcuffs on. I was certainly one of those folks. I was fortunate enough to, grow my income over 100,000 when I was still in my mid-20s. So, I'd been making some decent money, and it's not like you just walk out the door one day and that type of money's waiting there for you in a business. So we really thought long and hard about what we were going to do and how we were going to do it going forward. And what I realized is when I looked around, a lot of my peers were in the same position. They were doing stuff because it paid well. They weren't doing it because they were extremely passionate about it. And I feel like when you're in your genius zone, that's when you're able to make the biggest impact in the world. And so I took the opportunity to go back and try to free other folks. I guess that's the best way that I can put it. And I feel like we can do that through passive income. I think everybody has a money problem, John. And we got to figure out how we're going to pay for our lifestyle, whatever lifestyle that you feel like you need to live. And so if we can cover those expenses through passive income, then we're free to do work that we want to do. You know, if I had it my way, I'd be a high school football coach. I loved high school. I love high school football in general, but you know, I played football for, I guess I was around football for 22 years, and I played for probably 17. So, you know, I played all the way through college, and it was just like, man, I'm making a big impact. Ended up being a defensive coordinator. And so I was making these impacts, but when duty called, I couldn't be there for it, right? I got a promotion. I had to travel all around the country, and I had to give a coach of football. And that's where I feel like I was having my biggest impact. And so, you know, when I come back and I think about it, you know, at the end of the day, I really think the only significance is or the only success is when you have significance. And so for me, it's about helping people find their genius zone. And in addition to that, creating income that they don't have to trade their hours for dollars for, so that they can actually spend time working on that.
You said a couple of things that stand out. One, you know, finding your passion. And you said the only success you have is when you find your significance. And I think that's a very powerful statement to make. The other one you said was finding your genius zone. Can you define a little bit more about the genius zone to you?
Yeah, I mean, for the genius zone, it's where you're somebody. I guess the best way to call it is if something has to get done, they give you the ball, right? If I use a sports analogy, and we could talk about the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl, right? Where they throw the pass instead of giving it to Marshawn Lynch. Like Marshawn Lynch is set up to run 2 or 3 yards downhill, and that's the situation they were in. And, you know, we can Monday morning quarterback and all the other stuff, but the fact of the matter is give Marshawn the ball. Give him opportunity to do what he does. And I think everybody has that. They have that thing that they do, and they do it well, and they do it without a lot of effort. And so once you find that, if you can figure out a way to do that over and over again, it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like a job. You spend your time enjoying life. I think Warren Buffett calls it like tiptoeing and skipping to work or something like that.
Mm. Got it. No, it makes sense. All right, so let's transition a little bit. So you realize that, hey, you need to get out of this. You hated trying to lay off folks and going through that process. You know, you and I've talked a little bit before, but completely understand what that's like. You know, I was on the corporate side for a long time and went through massive layoffs, and even worse, I was sitting there watching it on TV when I was working at General Motors. So completely understand that. Luckily, I was fortunate enough to not go through those layoffs myself personally, but I did certainly see a lot of folks who were let go. And I think for me, it was similar to you. I recognized that I couldn't rely solely on corporate America to fund my lifestyle for the rest of my life, to take care of my family, to be there to support. So it was really important to get passive income or supplemental income where we had money coming in that wasn't tied to a salary job. So when you left, you focused on real estate and in particular multifamily. Where are you at right now? And talk to us about the journey to build up that portfolio.
Yeah, John. You know, in that mission, we're almost 10% there on the journey, and I think it starts a little slow and then it snowballs as you get a little more experience under your belt. So we've done a deal in Richmond, Virginia. That first deal was about 23 doors with a very heavy value add component to it. We were able to take rents on that property from an average of about $650 to, you know, we're going through lease up right now, and we're breaking 1090. I think we're getting some folks in at 1095, 1099,
Wow.
something like that. So that in and of itself was, you know, a major project.
Yeah.
And I'm asset manager or deal lead on all of the projects that I'm involved in. So after that, I kind of took my talents down south. We saw Greensboro market was providing, you know, what we thought were pretty good rents at a very favorable cost basis. So Greensboro, North Carolina, we've done the rest of our deals here. We did a 28, a 26, and we're getting ready to close on the 10 next week. So, you know, it's exciting. the market's tight, so it's kind of hard to find stuff right now. But that's kind of the way you want it to be. If the market's tight, that means everybody's rented up, and you know that's good for everybody, for landlords, because you're able to push rent a little bit. Truth in a while.
So you got a 28, you said, I'm sorry, 22, 28, and 26. You're getting ready to close on a 10. And then you got this 112 unit getting ready to come. Talk to me a little bit about that project.
Man, Technology Road excites me to no end. So we decided that we want to be kind of a difference maker in East Greensboro. And so traditionally, East Greensboro has been, I don't want to call it neglected, but it might be the wrong side of the tracks for the lack of a better way of describing it. And so there hasn't been any real multifamily development there in the past few years. And before that, there's only been one major complex sited east of downtown Greensboro. And so we found a site after speaking at a summit back in April, focused on housing. And, we're going to take 6 acres and build a combination of apartment buildings and townhomes on it. So right now, the site plan looks like about 20 townhomes and 96 apartments spread across 4 buildings.
No, I love that, man. So 96 apartments, 28 townhomes. All right. So Jerome, so you got, quite a lot of stuff going on right now. You've got all these deals that you're working on. I know you got a big project that's in the pipeline that you're developing as well. I want to continue to talk a little bit about mindset, because you started going with, these mid-sized apartments, 20 type units and up. How do you start jumping into multifamily and scaling up to some of the larger deals that I know you have in your horizon?
Yeah, I mean, I think first thing is knowing that it's possible, right? And getting around people who are actually doing it. Proof of concept kind of eliminates all doubt. And then I guess in general, John, my thesis on life is dreams should be real. And so if you dream of owning a big apartment complex or retiring early or whatever it is, I think it's possible. It's just a matter of you being willing to pay the price, whatever the price of admission is, in order to make that happen. So, I'm connecting with more like-minded people and even people who have mindsets that are bigger than mine so that I can grow and accomplish the things that I'm seeing other people do, and they seem to make a ton of sense to me. The one thing, to think that I would sign $1 million loan coming from where I came from was kind of insane. But we've done that a few times now. So now when we back up and we think about, okay, so what's the next step? I like Grant Cardone, at least some of the stuff he does, and you got to 10X it, right? So let's go to the next level. And I think that you can put the same amount of energy and effort into a single family home or a duplex as you do in a 100-unit property. And so, we're trying to, one thing we wanted to do was establish track record, right? If we fell down, if we fell on our face, we wanted to be able to recover from it.
Yep.
I think we've established that we can operate well and that we can buy right. And so in that same vein, we want to expand that and grow that. But again, I'm an engineer by training, risk averse in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to prove the concept and the model and make sure that we could actually do it before we make a big play. And, this is a big play for us. We thought $1 million was a big play, but this is big.
No, I love it, man. That 10X in it, really making sure that you see it and you can do it. You've talked about, if you can see it, then you can go out and execute it. So, I mean, I love that aspect. And I love your title too. We didn't really hit on this that hard, but you're the Chief Inspiration Officer for Dreamcatchers. I mean, your story is very inspiring. Talk to us about Chief Inspiration and a little bit more about the Dreamcatchers podcast.
Yeah, man. Dreamcatchers podcast is, it's pivoted a few different times. At first, we were doing a conference call on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month, and I wasn't getting the reach that I wanted because, we live in a society where people want it on demand. And so at the beginning of this year, 2019, we pivoted and turned it into a podcast. And so we took those recordings, started processing them a little bit, and then over the course of the past 6 or 7 months, we kind of, last episode actually was our first YouTube video. Okay. So we're kind of expanding the brand, but back to, Chief Inspiration Officer. my goal is to inspire. I don't want to motivate people. I want to inspire because then they take ownership of it. It's in them. I want to spark people to not only live the life that they dream of, but to also be the best person that they can absolutely be. And so, in order to do that, I think you have to do it by example. And so, kind of, I don't like beating my chest or talking about the things that I've done unless it's to the vein of, inspiring somebody to do something or give them exposure to something that they didn't think was possible.
You just said you don't want to motivate people, you want to inspire. Elaborate a little bit more on the difference between motivation and inspiration.
So if you had the fortune of walking home from school and there was a dog that had jumped the fence that you used to pick with as you walked by him, and he sees you and you see him, you're probably going to run. That dog is the motivation. And when the dog's tired or somebody calls him and he goes back home, you stop running. When you're inspired, you run just because you believe that that's the right thing to do. That internal clock going or that pull um, at whatever is on your heart is the thing that I think creates lasting change and improvement. And so the goal is always to inspire people so that once I'm gone, because I've coached for a long time, right? I coach athletes and now I coach real estate investors and engineers. So once I'm not standing there with you, or once we're not on the phone anymore, are you really going to do and execute, put the effort in to handle whatever we're working towards? And that doesn't happen if it's just motivation. You need inspiration so that you adopt it.
No, I love it. It reminds me of some of the words that David Goggins used in his Can't Hurt Me book. It's a really great book where he talks about motivation versus inspiration and hit on some of the things you just underscored there. But really good points. A lot of us are looking for motivational books or motivational podcasts or motivational speakers. But the inspiration is what we really should be striving for. So the first time I heard that concept, I thought it was really interesting. And listening to you talk and elaborate it more, I love the dog analysis because I think it's one that we can all, vision in our head. That dog is the motivator. When that dog stops, I'm gonna stop. And if you go to the gym, you've got a trainer, and that trainer is the motivation. That's great. But then what happens? You avoid your trainer. Now you don't work out, right? The whole point is to be self-inspired, if you will, to get up there and do what you need to do. So I love that analogy there. I wanna pivot a little bit more and talk a little bit more about the markets, right? So we've talked about Richmond, Virginia, and Greensboro, North Carolina, where you're focusing. Give me the lay of land for both markets. What is Richmond like, and how does that differ for Greensboro?
Yeah, I mean, Richmond's a big town. It's interesting because, you talk about cities, like you look at Miami, then there's Atlanta, and then in the mid-Atlantic, you're kind of just floating. I guess some people would say Charlotte. Um, and then you kind of skip over Virginia, but some people say Richmond. Our downtown, our rush hour is probably 20 minutes, maybe 30 at the most there. Um, but it's got a lot of links and ties to Confederate history. So there's a lot of open space, a lot of parks. Um, and, you know, the real estate there is very attractive to folks from DC, New York, just because I think the prices are lower, but it's got that city feel where you've got some row houses,
Hmm.
you've got stuff that like old tobacco warehouses. So, it was a very important city in, the early 1900s. Greensboro is there rush hour is probably 5 or 10 minutes, right? And it's awesome for me because I hate traffic. I couldn't do DC. I couldn't even do Charlotte or Raleigh. It's just too much on the traffic tip. But pricing wise, brand new units, they're probably in the 100,000 to 130 per door. Cap rates, they're probably trading around 5.5 at the highest, and some stuff goes low depending on where the investor's purchasing from. And Richmond's following kind of the same cap rate, but the NOI is a little bit higher. It's a little more expensive to live there. And so, per door, I think you could probably buy stuff, brand new stuff in the probably 125 to 150 range. But we're also seeing, what we buy is Class C and Class B, we're seeing that stuff trade around 75,000 in Richmond, and in Greensboro it can get as low as 45,000. So
You're saying a
that's why
door?
we
You said
love,
those numbers?
yeah, per door,
Yeah, a door.
absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So higher end 125 is what you're thinking about, and the lower end as low as 45 in a Class C property in those areas. Yep. That's good. And then how are you finding opportunities, or how are you finding the best places to invest in these markets? I mean, I know you're local and you're kind of connected, but what
Yeah.
tools are you using? What are you doing to find these investment opportunities?
I'll say all of the above, man. So I did some house flipping, and people say you can't find a house to flip on MLS. Well, we found it on MLS. I've bought two deals off of LoopNet. One of the deals we bought for 1.375, and we closed with $400,000 worth of equity. It appraised for 1.7. Well, I guess we have more than $400,000 in equity, but the difference between the purchase price and the appraisal was about 400,000. And so, I feel like you can find deals on LoopNet. You just got to make sure that you're buying right. We've done direct mail, and then stuff's even come through us through networking. So we try to turn over every rock. And I think one of the great things about us is, since we're in market and we're doing real estate full time, we have the ability to go to a deal. If a broker signs a listing agreement and he wants to show it to somebody, we want to be the first person they call and the first person to look at it. Even if we're not the first person they call, we want to be the first person to look at it so that we can get the LOI out and get it locked up before people even get opportunity to take a look at it. And then we take our time through due diligence, but the goal is to get it under contract as quickly as we can so that we have the time and we're not competing with a lot of people.
And do you do that only for a project you're really excited about, where you've already run your numbers and everything looks good? Or do you do that initially just so you can be the first one to really take a serious look?
We won't run numbers first if somebody calls us and say they have a deal that they want to sell it. We will go look at the deal and just get a feel for the community. Some parts of Greensboro and definitely in Richmond are block by block. And so we want to make sure that the property is in condition that we want to take it over, because that goes into our underwriting, right? If we need to put dollars in for external stuff, we can see that right now. And then from our experience, if you spend $10,000 inside of a unit, you did a whole lot. I mean, it was in really rough shape. And so what we think kind of at the highest level is, if somebody's living in the unit, you're probably not going to spend 10 grand to renovate it unless you're, taking it from a C to a A minus. And so we can get a pretty good idea of what we're going to have to put into it from an exterior tour.
And that's assuming that you're not really touching mechanicals, electric, plumbing, those kind of things, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay. What does a sweet deal look like for you? I mean, when you see it, as you're looking at those opportunities, are there key metrics you're looking for, key returns that you're looking for? What exactly are you targeting?
Yeah, I mean, for us, what we like most is debt service coverage ratio being over 1.5 when we close. And then, we want to be able to return all investor equity before year 5. So we want to do a cash out refi, return everything. And then, we usually pro forma 7 to 10 years as a whole piece.
Makes sense. All right. You ready to go to our bullseye round?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right. Give me your number one tip for winning. And I'm going to say this a little bit differently. Give me your number one tip for leaving your job and following your passion.
Save at least a year's worth of expenses.
There you go. How do you stay on top of changes in your markets?
Being in the market, it's not uncommon to be on site at properties, spend time with property managers, spend time with brokers, be involved in the RIA. We have a multifamily meetup here in the Triad that we started. So, we just want to be the eyes and ears in the market.
Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
John, every morning I get up at 4:30 and go for a 6-mile walk.
6-mile walk. I've seen your LinkedIn videos with the you doing those walks. So there you go. 6-mile walk. How long does it take you to walk 6 miles?
2 hours.
2 hours? That's awesome.
Do a little cardio in there with the gym, or a little weight training with the gym. But yeah.
Love it. All right, give me the best business or real estate book you've read in the last year.
A Millionaire Mindset, or Millionaire Success Habits. Millionaire Success Habits with Dean Graziosi.
All right. Give me a digital or mobile resource you use for your business.
We started doing some wholesaling of very small multifamilies, the stuff that you can still get residential loans on. We're using Deal Machine, and we're finding it to be extremely valuable for us.
Deal Machine, yeah. We've heard good things about Deal Machine. So I downloaded the Deal Machine app and haven't used it, so I should probably take another look at it. That's good to know. All right. Are you in Richmond or are you in Greensboro?
Greensboro.
All right, so you're in Greensboro. Give me the best place to grab a bite.
Oh man, that's tough. I like this restaurant called Lux, man. It's comfort food. I get the grilled pork chop with the macaroni and cheese, greens and yams every time I go in there.
Yeah.
You want to take a nap afterwards, but it's still good while you eat, right?
You said Lux?
Lux, Luxe.
Luxe, Lux. All right, man. We'll have to put that on the list. Lux. You got me wanting some good comfort food for dinner now. That's awesome. Jerome, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
John, I think the best way is jumping on our website. It's developing, but the E's are 3, so D3V3LOPING.com, and filling out the contact us form. And I get to look at all of those, so I'll reach back out to you. We can set up a time for a call if we need to do a call and talk about more about what we're doing and maybe how we can help you accomplish your goals and dreams.
There we go. Jerome, really good talking to you today, man. I love a couple of things you said in particular. You talked about the genius zone and making sure that, we're operating in our genius zone. I think that's a really strong play for people to understand. You talked to us about Richmond, VA, as well as Greensboro, some of the opportunities that you're seeing there, and how you've been able to grow and just kind of knocking out, so many projects. I know you got another big project that is in the works for you. And just really understanding how do you move forward, having the proof and the concept of, having the knowledge and the confidence in yourself and your overall mission of helping people leave jobs that they're not passionate about and getting up to 1,000 doors. So I know you're well on your way right now and going to help out a lot of folks as you do that. So appreciate you coming on the show and sharing some of the knowledge and sharing some of your journey of what it takes to kind of become a multifamily investor and grow your portfolio.
Thanks, John. It's always a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you wherever I see you. I know we'll run into each other somewhere.
All right, sounds good, man. Take care.